order. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Let's do roll call. We have Mr. Anderson via Zoom, Mr. Holsey via Zoom, and Ms. Hennessy, I believe I saw her already. Yep, there she is. And Mr. Heimuller is in person here, as am I, as well as Nancy, Laura, Mary Jo Beth, and Danelle. Sorry. Okay. We've done roll call. Public comment.
Board President Clark, this is Tyler Miller. I do have public comment.
Good morning. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Okay, I'll try to keep this short as I can within the 10 minutes. If I go over my 10 minutes, if you can please just let me know. I would appreciate it. Last night, sorry, I've been under the weather the last few days here, and as the board's probably aware, Mr. Fletcher appeared in front of the Scapa City Council on Monday, and I wanted to wait to form a communication to the board before I heard what Mr. Fletcher had to say during that meeting. I don't know if you received my email. Let me share my screen here really quick. Nathan, are you able to give me the ability to share my screen? It looks like it's disabled.
Yeah, just hit it.
Okay, let me try again here. Okay, great. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me expand my screen here. Is that still readable, or is it too small?
It got pretty small.
Great. Okay, let's just go back to regular mode here. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, roll with that. Okay, so last night I sent all of the board of directors an email. I do apologize that it was so late. Again, I was just under the weather, and I wanted to wait till I heard what Mr. Fletcher had to say. So I'm not sure, of course, I'm not sure if you guys have had a chance to read it. It's quite lengthy. I do apologize for that as well. There's just a lot of very important, relevant information, and believe it or not, I really am trying to look out for the board's best interest, the first responders' best interest, and the taxpayers' best interest. So it is really important that I bring these points forward. I do want to point out too that I have a lot of unique experience, and so the things that I see from what's going on is going to be different from what others see. So I have the technical experience, as you guys know, and I have the experience of having worked on the Columbia 911 radio system. I've been a first responder for 6 years. I relied on that radio system. And then also, I have the unique experience of also being an elected public official too. So I have multiple hats that I wear here. And so those experiences and those positions are going to inherently give me, a different view than, say, you or anybody else has. Just like your views are going to be different than what I have. The first thing I want to point out here before I get started on kind of the meat and potatoes of what I wrote in my email is that from what I understand from the agenda, Mr. Fletcher is going to be asking you to approve it looks like $15,655 and $17,462 on a contract amendment to federal engineering. The district already approved and is already paid, from what I understand, and it's in the contract documents, so I'm relying on that information, over $70,000 to federal engineering. So these amounts combined is going to put the payables to federal engineering over $100,000, and that doesn't, you have to go out to bid when you do that. So here's the RFP information on the amendment that's on the C911 website, and as you can see here, the amounts that I quoted earlier are listed here. And I want to go down to, DOJ Rule 137-0480-200, direct appointment or procedure. Basically what this says, I'll just summarize it really quick, and this is in, you can look it up, of course. It's 137-0480-200. But basically what it says is that, anything over $100,000 it needs to go out to RFP, and that doesn't matter if you do it over several transactions. If it's the same vendor for the same services or same general services like engineering, that it qualifies. So there is a couple exceptions, though, that I want to point out. it has to meet the following requirements for there to be an exception to that. And one of the exceptions is that the original RFP had to have been bidded publicly, which it did not. So it doesn't qualify for that. So to approve an amount that goes over 100,000, federal engineering is going to have to go out to RFP, from what I understand, based on this DOJ rule. Going down to my letter here again that I sent last night. I'm going to try to go through this and paraphrase as much as possible, but it is really important that you guys take the time to read this. I know it's hideous. Being a city councilor, we get tons of information. I know it takes a lot of time, and if you don't have a lot of interest in the subject, it's sometimes hard to get through and hard to understand. So I'm going to try to go through this and paraphrase as much as I can. But again, please take the time to read it, especially before you make any other decisions, because like I said, I am really trying to watch out for your best interest, and I think you'll see that when I go through this, and also the first responders and the taxpayers' interest. The amounts that are listed in the federal engineering report, I contend that they're way off by millions of dollars, and there's some information in here to kind of evidence that as well. But regardless, we know that the system is going to cost millions of dollars, and it's just really important that we as elected officials be stewards, really good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And that'll illuminate a little bit more as to why what I'm specifically talking about there. But you have people on fixed incomes that are getting their primary source of income is Social Security. We have disabled veterans who have medical bills that are beyond what they can afford. Some people can't even afford basic services. They struggle to pay their electrical, water, their essential utility bills. So, we do need a really reliable radio system too, but we need to make sure how we get there is done properly, and that we're making the best decisions for Columbia County, not what Washington County did, not what Clark County did, not what any other agency did. We really need to make sure that it's fitting for our county. Let me go down here. I'm going to skip over a lot again because I know we don't have a lot of time. One thing that I want to point out here is that the RFI was released, and it's on the cover page of the RFI, January 15, 2018. And I want to point out that on page 2 of the RFI, section 1.1, it specifically states that this is a request for information. This RFI is issued solely for information and planning purposes. It does not constitute a request for proposal, an invitation for bid, or promise to issue an RFP or IFB in the future. This request for information does not commit the district to a contract or any supplier service whatsoever. Further, the district is not at this time seeking proposals and will not accept any unsolicited proposals. Interested parties are advised that the district will not pay for any information or administrative costs incurred in response to this RFI. All costs associated with responding to this RFI are solely yada, yada, yada. Not responding to this RFI does not constitute. Okay, I think I covered what needs to be covered there. Sorry. So what I want to cover here is that the RFI the district is relying on is over 3 years old. And as I pointed out to Mr. Fletcher at our city council meeting, the technology has changed. And for example, Motorola has new products out, so does Tate. And more importantly, the list of specification requirements that the end users that were interviewed said that were important to them, the ways of accomplishing those requirements have changed. And there is undoubtedly better, more efficient, more cost-practical ways to address those things than what is in the RFI. Now, it's important to keep in mind that an RFI and an RFP, so a request for information and a request for proposal, are two completely different things under Oregon procurement laws. A request for information, which is what the district did, is essentially saying to a vendor, hey, respond to us with all the different things that you can offer. It's not a proposal, but yet it continues to be treated as a proposal by the 901 district and by federal engineering, which is very problematic, especially given the amount of dollars that are involved here and the potential for lawsuits from these vendors. And vendors do file lawsuits. Phoenix PD City of Phoenix was sued by Taser for a very similar situation. So I really encourage you to step back and take a look at that. So Mr. Fletcher has called the RFI responses from Codan Tate and Motorola proposals on multiple occasions. It's on recording. Again, they're not proposals. This may sound trivial, but it's not when you look at the definition under Oregon procurement rules. I also want to point out, too, that at our city council meeting, the RFIs were called bids. They were referred to as qualified bidders, and those have completely different legal meanings under the procurement rules. There is a link to the audio and video because our work sessions are recorded at the city of Scappoose, so there is a link there. And again, you guys have a copy of this email, so you can click on that and you can watch the video and listen for yourself. And I highly encourage you to do that too. And Federal Engineering's report also, dated August 19, 2021, which is their final. Federal Engineering refers to the RFI responses by Codan, Motorola, and Tate as proposals more than 30 times. They are not proposals. Even the Motorola, for example, even expressly said in their proposal response that they understand it's not a proposal. So anyway, I won't go any further on that one. However, Mr. Fletcher has engaged Federal Engineering with a very limited scope to review only what 3 vendors responded with 3 years ago as options. So I think you can see the problems right there. So the response in the RFI from all vendors included a wide range of products. I mean, Tate goes into very extensive detail about all the different solutions that they offer, and it's on all spectrums: VHS 700, 800, UHF, whatever, P25 digital or analog, trunking, trunking conventional, and somehow these responses that these vendors have given have been represented as them proposing only one thing, and it's not. They went through a RFI saying all the things that they can offer. They did make a suggestion, but again, under the umbrella of an RFI, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. So it's not, in my mind, it's not proper to say this is what the vendor responded with and say it was a VHF conventional system, because that's not really what the RFI said in total. The RFI said in total, these are all the things that we can do. It's not just this one thing. And instead what I see is little things being cherry-picked into packages that don't make any sense except for the ones that maybe 1 or 2 individuals want. And so that is very obvious to me in reading all this material. And also keep in mind that I attend all the board meetings, all the advisory committee meetings, and I review tons of information. So I have that as context too. If you're not listening to what's being said in the advisory committee meetings compared to what's being said in the board of directors meetings, you're probably not going to make some of these connections. But because I do attend those and I do listen to all of them, there is a different narrative being said in each of these meetings, and I'll get to that a little bit more.
Tyler,
later.
with that, you're already at your 10 minutes, so can you wrap it up?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't really need to go on. If you guys have the letter, and I'm sorry for the record, who was that just spoke?
Sean Clark.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, you guys have the letter. I don't need to go on. There is a recording here, just really quick. There is a recording of the advisory committee meeting and what was said there versus what was told to you guys in the following board meeting on October 28th. I highly recommend that you guys review that. More importantly, Sean, I'm just really quick. I really want to make sure that you guys look at the at the part about the Umatilla Morrow County radio system. $5 million for 14 sites over about 4 to 8 channels per site on a Tate system, P25 trunking digital. So, big cost differences in between what's in the federal report versus some reality there. But again, Sean, sorry for going over. You guys have all the information in my email. Please read it. It is really important. It really impacts a very important decision.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have any other public comment? Okay, nothing in the chat I see. Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Are there any additions to the agenda at this time?
No, sir.
Hearing none. Moving on. Approval of the October 28th regular meeting and November 19th, 2021 emergency meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Sorry, I didn't hit the space bar. I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes from October 28th and November 19th, 2021. Is there any further discussion on those? Hearing no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Financial reports. We have the acceptance of budget variance.
get back to that page somehow and I'll drop them.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the budget variance report as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the budget variance report as presented. Any further discussion or questions?
I was just curious if Nancy has anything she'd like to point out.
Nope, it's all looking really good for this time of year.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Any others? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All those
Aye.
all those opposed? Motion carries. Approval of expenditures.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the expenditure report from check number 30461 through check number 30538, including the electronic payments. Yeah, the electronic payments as presented in the total amount of $372,098.74.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve expenditures check number 30461 through 30538, including electronic payments and transfers for a total of $372,098.74. Discussion. I have a curiosity, but I will save it for an offline discussion with you about Esri mapping costs. That's curious to me, as it relates to another function of mine.
Oh, very well.
Okay, no discussion, right? I already called for discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Hey, Sean, can I ask Nancy a quick question?
Yes, please.
I'm just curious, with the Western Oregon electric rates going up soon, do we know how much that's going to affect that line item?
No, but I generally put a little extra in there for that, just in case. 'Cause we get notices quite often about utility rates increasing.
Thank you.
Okay. We are ready to move on to motion to transfer funds.
Mr. Chair, point of order. You didn't ask for opposition on that motion.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, all those in favor said aye. All those opposed to the expenditures? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Heimler. Motion carries. And now to the motion to transfer funds.
Do we have that document?
It's in there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't have it, that's okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that we transfer $600,000 from the general fund to our equipment reserve fund and $200,000 from the general fund to the facilities reserve fund as appropriated in our 21-22 fiscal year budget.
I will second.
All right, moved and seconded to approve the transfer of funds as presented here. Is there any discussion on it? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, operations manager report.
So we currently have 2 trainees right now. Both are progressing very nicely, and moving ahead of schedule than what we typically see, so that's been very nice. We do have 3 applicants in the process, so 2 are still in backgrounds. 1 just met with the psych doctor, had that meeting yesterday, and is going in for her medical, I believe, next week. So hopefully that'll all work out, and then giving her 2 weeks to be able to put a notice in the holidays, so we're looking at the beginning of January to start her. So typically we don't like to have 3 trainees at a time because it kind of creates a little bit of a challenge, but we're gonna roll with it and see how we can make it work and do the best we can in that situation. So we did have 3 external inquiries. 2 resulted in training and 1 of them was unfounded. And then just finishing up, we had our fall training for everybody to make sure that we got our year finished out with the adequate training requirements for DPSST and APCO. So just need to work on finishing submitting those training records so we get the credit for it, but otherwise we're good to go with all of that.
So that'll bring us all up to complete current on our training and
Yes.
reporting of such.
Yes. Yeah, and so with COVID, what they've been doing, they did it for this year, and they would allow it for next year, that if for some reason you didn't meet your training requirements for the year, you could still add some of your 22 hours to 2021 to backfill those hours. But we were in that situation for last year, so we did have a handful of employees who had to use their 2021 hours to credit their 2020 hours. But I want to make sure that we didn't do that this year, so we will be even Steven and good for next year.
That's good news. And how is the schedule with current employees and that kind of thing? Are
We did have.
we got tons of mandatory overtime going on? Or?
Yeah, we do. We did do a rebid to try and help even out some of the shifts and the mandates, and so we're hopeful with the 2 trainees that we have that they'll be done by February. So it's just going to be a couple hopefully short months, a little bit of pain to get through it, and then we'll have 2 full-time employees to be counted in our minimums, and we'll put them accordingly on the schedule where it's going to be most beneficial. So.
Any other questions?
Oh, I missed 2 things. I just skipped right over them. So we did have a lead promotion because Danelle had moved into the GIS, so that opened a position. So we promoted Wendy Farley into the lead dispatch position. So that was effective immediately. So I think it's been a whole 2-3 weeks. And then also too, we had previously it was called the program coordinator who oversaw all of our training and certifications. We've renamed it to the training and certification coordinator position just because it kind of makes sense and it's clear what that position is and what they'll do. So that is open. We posted it internally. It's now posted externally. It'll close on the 22nd, and we're planning for interviews first week of January.
Good.
Okay. Nice. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Technical manager.
So for facilities, we had the carpets and dispatch in the main areas of the building professionally cleaned. Carpet was nasty, so we're going to start doing that twice a year. Danelle, as she's moving into her role, is kind of taking over that project and making sure it all goes smoothly. Security project updates. So we had a change order a couple months ago to install automatic door openers on the front door and the lobby door for ADA. So that's installed, but it still needs to be wired to the security panel, so can't just press a button to get access to our building. Lighting project that has been completed, so we have all new lights, and last board report I reported that we received credit from our electrical company.
That was a rebate, correct? Remember right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Nathan?
Just a comment from me, and that's that there's been a 50% improvement in my credit card and fingerprint reading, and that I got through the gate this month but couldn't get into the building. So.
Well, I have operator
You got
here.
working hands. You work too hard.
It worked at the gate.
What'd you do between there and here?
I even used the same finger. I know I did.
Just a quick question on that, Nathan. Am I supposed to use my right hand? Is that that's what the image shows, right? Is that correct?
I don't remember. It should be either one of your index fingers.
Okay.
So scan your card and then put your finger in.
Okay. Oh, that's where I messed up. All right. I'll figure it out. I'll get it down. Any other questions for Nathan? Okay. Moving on. Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, sir. So, old business radio system. There's nothing new on the Dixie Mountain site. Klatskanai, there is. So, if you'll go remember last year, actually the last 2 years, we were working with Washington State Patrol, who has an interest with co-locating at the Klatskanai site. In fact, they purchased the tower upgrade equipment, and it's been sitting in the yard at Day Wireless in Longview literally for, I think, 2 or 3 years. They kind of went off the radar after we were talking to them over 2 years ago. They re-engaged with us the end of November with apologies, and are re-engaging with us, still interested, and so at this point we're exchanging legal documents between their legal rep and ours for co-location agreements. So we're moving forward on that. That's good.
What has been the delay on that, Mike? Are they just saying COVID, blame it on COVID?
Well,
like
partly
everything else?
that, and part of their issues in the state of Washington are directly related to COVID. They had construction shutdowns, state mandated, and they're re-engaged. They also lost some of their construction crews, and so part of our conversation about the Klatskanai site, the agreement was previously that that equipment would be purchased and their construction crews would actually do the install. Part of our conversation last month was that will change. They're going to contract out, but so they have staffing issues as well. So.
Thank you.
Corey Hill, Vernonia break-in update. It's the never-ending story up there. So we have completed all the grounding loop work. So underground, there's a copper halo that grounds the system. That had been stolen. That work is now complete, back in the ground. We're waiting on a new transfer switch, which should be received and installed by the end of this month. I'll keep you posted on that. But between the last break-in and today, the bad guys have returned. They did start actually dismantling or trying to dismantle the entire fence and the gate. So we've had a contractor up there who has completed the fence repair and tightened all of the fasteners around the entire fence. We're also looking into, we're getting bids to reinforce the fence. I'm not going to go into detail what that means, but it's an added security feature, as well as we're adding some other security equipment up there to help alleviate or at least capture bad guys. It was broken into again. They did additional damage to the what was the existing camera systems. They've been removed from the building, and they also damaged the generator again. The insurance company is aware of all this.
A question on that, Mike. We've had trouble with Corey Hill over the course of years and years, off and on. Would there be any value to studying, finding maybe a different location than that particular site? I don't know. I don't know if there'd be a more secure location that would give us adequate coverage or something. But it seems like we kind of keep. We keep addressing this and fixing it, and then calling the insurance company and bolstering the fence. And one time we didn't even have a fence up there. But I mean, it just makes me wonder if they're, putting this in the middle of the cemetery or something would be.
Well, and so that's part of our conversation. We share this conversation with our neighbors up there, Verizon, AT&T, and even with conversation with Day Wireless, that because it is not a remote site, I think that is part of the problem, is that it's so accessible, and it is. It's an easy target. I think whatever radio system we go to, when that system is designed, part of that process is locating the best optimal sites for propagation, for coverage. So our intent is, with any new radio system, is, of course, first option is utilizing the existing sites we have, because we have a large investment in those. But that doesn't mean that we're going to be tied to them. Depending on the system, there may be other locations that would be more beneficial. So the table's clear and everything's on as an option. So, but I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, it just seems like it's
Yes.
been a toothache kind of.
Moving on, Meisner site, the front end documents are complete. Legal has reviewed them all, and I believe the construction manager is on the cusp of sending out the RFP, or publishing the RFP, I should say, for the civil work. But tied to that is, as you recall, the tower and the shelter is coming from the Washington County Upgrade Project, and their project has been pushed back to January. So that'll push our tower and shelter availability beyond that. So Bryce, our construction manager, is aware of that as well. But we're ready to roll. Next gen radio system. So quite a few things there. So as you recall at our last board meeting, input from the advisory committee and the fire defense board, as well as your echo of in agreement of more education and a more in-depth understanding. And my direction was to go back to federal engineering and seek a re-engagement with them. And the focus would be a more in-depth focus on the CRESA solution, a focused comparison on the two 800 solution, whether that be CRESA and or Washington County. Identify the difference in maintaining and supporting a standalone system versus joining a system. The education and pros and cons of a VHF system. What has changed, and specifically Mr. Heimuller, what has changed in the 20 plus years since the build out of our current VHS system, and now the recommendation, at least through federal, to partner with a CRESA system, which is 800. So that was relayed to federal. They, in your packet, you have a document from them, and in their document, there's actually two things here. So I asked for a bid proposal for the cost analysis or the coverage analysis of Columbia Heights. This is the work that Mr. Palins was working on when he passed away. And so we asked for a quote for them to do that, as well as a quote to come out and do a work study session with those points that I just mentioned. And I've had this conversation with federal as well as with some of you on sidebar conversations. The cost estimate for the Columbia Heights, I'm putting on hold. I'm not asking you to take any action on that. And the reason specifically is because of the microwave work that we are investing a large chunk of money that is in progress today. So we're going to wait. We're going to make that investment because we need to fix the microwave link between Clatskanie and Columbia Heights. And so let's just let Columbia Heights sit there for a moment until we figure out the radio system. And then, like I said just recently, that part of that design of any new system will be an evaluation of the proper tower locations, and Columbia Heights would be one of those. So that's a hold. We're not going to move on that Columbia Heights analysis. But for federal engineering to come back out and do a work study session, their contract is complete. Their deliverables were complete in the original contract. So this is a time and materials only of $15,655. Date to be determined. They would bring out between 2 and 3 people for a day session with the advisory committee and the board of directors, and it'd be a public meeting to talk about those points that I just mentioned. So I am seeking approval for that quote, and then if that is done, then I will work with federal engineering to coordinate a date and time. We suspect it will be sometime in January, but it'll be dependent on the availability of all interested parties. Try to get everybody, as many as we can, to participate.
I was unable, and nor am I still able to access page 3 of that document. As soon as I try to scroll to page 3, it locks up the document altogether. I did that at home too. Not sure why. So what I'm hearing you say is that not only is the lean toward this 800 and Cressa partnership, but that's really kind of more of a pathway versus a conversation as we move forward.
It's an option. So the whole purpose of federal engineering was to validate what we have, the RFI process, and it is an RFI. It's not an RFP. Their report is not a system design. It's a concept. And really, the bottom line is education for you, the board, as to whether you want to own and operate any system in any spectrum, or the option of partnering with an existing entity and an existing system. And those are two distinctly different things. And part of the ask of further education is hopefully can answer that, because a more in-depth focus on the Cressa solution, why Cressa, what makes them special versus the other partnered system, which is the Washington County system, or the difference between owning and operating and maintaining your own system regardless of the spectrum, or partnering with an existing system. And then the added, and so as I've explained to the various chiefs who I have conversations with regarding the federal engineering report, as well as what I presented to the city of Scappoose, is if the board should decide to focus on an owning and operating a system, which is what we do today, that's perfectly fine. You have an option of a spectrum, VHF, which is what we have, or you can do 700, or you could even own and operate your own 800 if you so choose. If you choose that, then we would go out for an RFP. Just because we have a solution offered by Codan, which is VHF, and you choose to stay on the VHF spectrum, that doesn't mean we're going to Codan and say, you win. We clearly would publish an RFP, but we would focus on a spectrum. And the same for 700. Mr. Miller is absolutely correct. There are lots of vendors who offer radio systems in all spectrums, and some of them didn't respond to the RFI. But if we choose to go to a 700 system, again, we would publish an RFP seeking qualified bidders to build us a 700 system.
Well, and you can understand that. I mean, there's people that'll respond to an RFI, but they also know at that point in time, there's no way to make money really on an RFI other
Correct.
than
It's
showing up
information.
as an interested player. An RFP means you're getting serious and there's a chance to make some money at it.
That's
You know,
correct.
that's the thing. I personally feel like the more education that we can get before making this decision, the better.
Absolutely.
And paying federal or whomever we need to pay some dollars to help clarify things is also better. And I know that this sounds perhaps a little crass to some, but also perhaps a little more business-like than what 911 services look like. But what I'm going to ask these guys, if I get the opportunity, is to, you know, if we've got the opportunity to go to an 800 system or a 700 system or an improved VHF system, and this one costs $30 million, and this one costs $25 million, and this one costs $15 million, and they've all got a similar lifespan, what's the cost risk benefit ratio of one versus the other? In other words, will you be able to guarantee this board that for the extra $10 million between VHF and 800, we're going to save X number of lives, we're going to unendanger, more staffing and things of that nature to compensate for that $10 million upfront cost? Because if nobody can really justify, verify, quantitate the difference in cost, and I know that there's been some of this work done, but we haven't seen a document that says for sure this is going to happen if you do that versus this. And some of this comment has to do with the fact that I'm just an old guy and been around for a while, but I remember when we put the radio system, our last new radio system in, we were assured in this very building that that system was so robust that it was going to allow for 5-watt portable to 5-watt portable coverage everywhere in the county except for a football field size space in Dutch Canyon. Wasn't even close.
Right.
Okay. Better than what it was, no doubt about it. The system today is much better than it was 20 years ago. But, I'm going to be the guy that is asking those questions about the business decision of this. Is it worth going to our taxpayers? And can I say with a straight face in public meetings and in front of town halls and every place else, yes, this additional X million dollars between this and that is absolutely going to save lives, speed up response, keep our law enforcement, EMS and fire folks safer and all of that kind of thing. And I'm really not going to be looking for any smoke to be blown up my skirt, because I can read through that pretty well. And that's the kind of answer that whatever we have to pay for that kind of education, I think is necessary for our 5 board members to make the best decision moving forward. So,
Agreed.
and regardless of whether it's an owned system or a contracted partnership.
Understood.
Sean, I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
All right, so I'll try to keep it short, not to be long-winded. I have read the document that Tyler referenced in its entirety. I also virtually attended the city council workshop and meeting, and all I have to say is, thankfully, we don't have any public restrooms, and if you watch the video, you'll understand why. But moving on, I think there is some confusion about the word proposal. You go back to, yes, we issued an RFI, and in that RFI, the vendors, Codan had one proposal, and I believe our other 2 vendors also had multiple proposals, and that term proposal was meant for spectrum and options. It wasn't an actual purchase proposal.
Correct.
And even in the public testimony today, I heard the exact same thing came out that said in Motorola's proposal. So I think there's just a little synaptics and maybe definition that gets people confused. And I would like the rest of the board to advise me if I'm wrong on this. But if I recall right, we are at the very basics of this process. We have not even yet determined what spectrum we're going to be on.
That is correct.
Which is the reason why we want to do this meeting with federal engineering to come in and to explain to the user services and the parties involved the benefits of and the limitations of each spectrum. And we do have some price estimates, so we kind of know roughly what the difference significant in cost of A versus B, whether C versus D. We know that these costs, some of them we have good figures on, and some of them definitely need more refinement, but because we don't even know what spectrum we're going for yet, we haven't dug that far into getting an actual proposal. If we decide we go 800, that means yes, we obviously have to, or 700 or 800, we definitely need to put out a new proposal, which will list all the new options available, make sure everything is modern, has a good look at it, and move on from there.
Correct.
Whether that is being independent or joining somebody else. I see Mike nodding his head a little bit there, but if anyone else on the board here can let me know if I'm off base on where my interpretation is and where we're at right now. Like I said, I think this is pretty much just almost like a relaunch from the meeting we had with Codan, Communications Northwest, I believe, and Motorola when it was at the St. Helens Library, when they came out and spoke to everyone. And I believe, Mike, that was before your time. And correct me if I'm wrong. That's when all three vendors came out and met with the group and reviewed, I'm not going to call it proposal, they reviewed the pros and cons of all of their options.
That's correct, and I was there, and you're spot on, and that is why we contracted with an independent engineering firm to help guide us. We're not relying on the manufacturers or the people who are trying to sell us a system. That's why we're using an independent engineering firm to help educate us and tell us the pros and cons and what's in our best interest from an independent standpoint. So I echo that. I'm trying to choose my words carefully because they are potential solutions. VHF, 700, 800. It's a potential solution to own and operate. It's a potential solution to partner with a Cresa, Washington County, a Portland system if you wanted to. All options are still on the table, and we are in the education phase. So, Mr. President, again, unless there's other questions from the board, happy to engage that. Seeking approval for the quote for the work study session.
Yeah, and I'll just add my comment is similar to Rob's and Henry's, and as far as, we're far from being experts on this topic, and as much information as we can get to make the correct decision is obviously the way we want to proceed. So, yeah, I'm nowhere near making a decision at this point. So you're looking for a motion to approve the federal engineering part of that quote. That's
correct.
I'm getting back to the document here. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the $15,655 request for federal engineering to do this work and come out here and meet with us and discuss these options or the potential options as presented.
I will second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the $15,655 for support and analysis of the options on the radio system. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just, for my own clarification in looking at the proposal, I'm reading this as the 15,655 is a ceiling, that it could be less than that based on the time and materials, and that's the way it's described in here.
And whether there's two federal engineerings or 3 come out or 4. Yes.
Who makes those determinations?
It will be based on schedule, and then the manager is Rajit, and he and I will coordinate that.
Okay, but the 15,655 is the cap, and does that include the travel expenses?
It does.
Okay, and I was a little confused by their description of monthly billing and all that other kind of stuff, but because it seemed like it was kind of a one and done.
Yeah, I clarified that with him, that we were not moving forward with the coverage analysis portion of the quote. He understood that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Just for clarification, I think I only kind of heard a blip on a third aye, but there were no opposed. Is everyone in an aye?
I see Rob,
Yeah.
thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And any opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Thank you.
Continuing on, the microwave work between Clatskanie and Columbia Heights. The equipment has all been programmed, was racked up. In fact, I heard about 8:30 this morning, I heard from the shipping company, and the equipment, it will be delivered by 11 o'clock this morning. It's being drop shipped to the Longview office of Day Wireless, who then will transport the 2 crates, one to Clatskanie and one to Columbia Heights. We're having a coordination meeting tomorrow morning. Our expectation is to do cutover Monday night into Tuesday morning. Everything's going very well. Let's see, what else do I have for you? That's all the stuff on radio. Nothing new on tow service. That's still in the hands of the county. And ambulance service area, there has been some work with Scappoose Fire, cleaning up some of their ASA areas where it borders and commingles with both Multnomah County and Washington County. I have a reminder here to speak about the SDAO conference, which is scheduled for February 10 through 13. We have, I'm looking at Mary Jo and Nancy, board members being registered for that.
We have not registered anybody for the conference yet. We have 3 rooms reserved in case anybody wants to attend in person. But we need to know because that conference typically will fill up fast.
Where's it at?
Eugene.
At the graduate?
Yes.
Is it a hybrid, half and half, or is it one or the other?
I think it's one or the other.
I'll come and go.
Okay.
I'll be going.
Okay.
In person, both of you?
Yeah,
In person for me.
unless things blow up with Omni chromosome, or
Right, Omicron.
omnipotent.
And then also I'm sorry, Shelley or Bruce or Rob, I wasn't looking at my screen, if there's a level of interest in you attending.
I can't commit to attending in person as we're in the middle of playoffs at that time. So there's no way for me to know what we're doing and whether I have enough people to fill in here.
Understood.
Yeah, I would attend in person.
Making a note of that, Bruce and Rob.
Yeah, I will need to check for some other conflicts, and I'll follow up with Mary Jo or Nancy.
Thank you. Then a tickle also for the Northwest Leadership Seminar, which is scheduled for March 2 through 4. Level of interest from the board?
I won't be attending.
Henry's a no.
I'm a tentative at this point.
Rob, Bruce, or Shelley?
Not for me, thank you.
Noted.
Can you repeat the dates on that?
It's March 2nd through the 4th.
Yeah, that's going to be a no for me because if we make it to state, that's state playoff. So
Okay.
And again, I will have to check, probably see the roster of who are the presenters are, what their focus is for this year, and any other potential conflicts. So again, Mary Jo or Nancy will definitely be harassing me if they don't hear from me soon.
Very good.
Okay, on to new business.
We don't have any, sir.
No new biz. Okay, how about Mr. Fletcher's update?
I don't really have anything else to add other than echoing what Mr. Miller reported, that I did present for the Scappoose City Council this past Monday, and I appreciated the opportunity, and that was all I had extra.
Okay. All right, at this time, we will take a quick break and move into executive session under ORS 192.6602F, exempt public records. I don't believe we'll have a decision afterwards, is that correct?
I don't know.
Well, we shall see. Okay, so we're going to take a minute here and get into executive session, and then we'll see some of you afterwards. I guess I'll wait for Nathan to tell us we're good to go.
Should be good to go.
Okay, we are out of executive session, back into open session. Moving on here on the agenda, do we have any agenda items specific for January 27th meeting? Anything anybody would like added? Or?
I haven't done anything.
Okay. Let's move on to other business and member comments. How about Mr. Heimler? Would you like to start?
I'd love to. I just I'd like to take this time to wish everyone a happy holiday season. Merry Christmas to all. It's been interesting out there. I've done a little bit of shopping and that kind of thing, and it's been kind of an interesting year. It's our family takes an annual trip. This was our 30th year of taking friends, family, our RVs, and going to the beach for Thanksgiving weekend. And it kind of gives you the initial springboard into doing a little bit of Christmas shopping. And this is the first year when we were up in the Warrenton, Long Beach area, where stores were not packed. Even like Fred Meyer and big stores, Costco. Man, it was just like, it felt altogether different. And walking down the streets, in the old part of town to the individual shops, they said, business has been steady, but it hasn't been just people going crazy. So I don't know if that's COVID related, if it's just more people shopping online, which I really hope isn't the case. But it was a whole different feel this year. But nonetheless, got a few gifts picked up, had a good weekend, and hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving, and wish everybody a great, safe holiday season as we head into December.
Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. How about Shelley? You ready? Any comments?
I would just like to reiterate what Henry just said. We got a little bit of snow up here this morning, so we're getting right into the season. Hopefully it goes away soon, but Top Hill's white as we speak. And here we go.
Yeah.
Happy winter. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, Shelley.
Bruce.
Thank you.
Just pretty much happy holidays to everyone. I hope everyone stays safe and healthy, and that's it for me.
Thank you. Rob?
No, I think you all heard me drone on long enough for this meeting. Though I do want to say happy holiday season. And hopefully here, you mentioned COVID stuff, but, they're finding out in South Africa that even with Omicron or whatever it is starting out down there, their wards are nowhere nearly as packed as they were with the Delta. So hopefully more of this is just people speculating and being fearful than anything, actually being another surge.
So,
Good point. Yes, I will echo all those things. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I just appreciate the staff and keeping the wheels on the bus and things happening here at the district. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sean.
very